Welcome to a new episode of Essentials, the series where we try to understand the unrest in the West. This episode, we will look at a book that was published in 2023 and that provides good insights in the current turmoil and chaos in the world, The Crisis of Democratic Capitalism, by Martin Wolf. However, before we deep dive into the book, we will introduce the author, Martin Wolf. Wolf is a highly respected British journalist and economist, best known as the chief economics commentator for the Financial Times. With a career spanning several decades, he is regarded as one of the world's most influential economic thinkers and commentators on global finance and policy. Wolf's commentary and writings often focus on the interplay between economics and politics, with a strong emphasis on issues such as financial stability, the global economy, and the risks to democracy from economic imbalances. He is known for his ability to explain complex economic concepts to a broad audience. In The Crisis of Democratic Capitalism, Martin Wolf examines how democracy and capitalism, two systems that have long supported each other, are now in conflict and facing serious challenges. Wolf argues that these two pillars, one political and one economic, have historically worked together to create stable, prosperous societies. However, this relationship has become strained, creating a crisis that threatens the stability of both democracy and capitalism. Wolf starts by explaining the basic idea behind the partnership between democracy and capitalism. Democracy is a political system where power is shared among people, and everyone has a say through voting and other forms of participation. Capitalism, on the other hand, is an economic system where businesses compete and resources are allocated based on market demand. For much of the 20th century, these systems reinforced each other. Democracy provided the political stability needed for businesses to thrive, and capitalism generated wealth that funded social programs and improved people's lives. The balance between these systems isn't easy because they have different goals. Democracy values equality and representation, while capitalism often leads to inequality and concentrates wealth in the hands of a few. However, when managed properly, the wealth generated by capitalism can support democratic institutions, creating a cycle of prosperity and political stability. But when the balance tilts too far in favor of one side, problems arise. Wolf argues that this is what has been happening in recent years, leading to the crisis we see today. The main problem Wolf identifies is the increasing gap between the rich and the poor. In many developed countries, wealth and income inequality have skyrocketed. While a small group of people has become very wealthy, large segments of the population feel left behind. This economic divide has resulted in widespread frustration and anger, especially among middle and lower income groups. People feel that the system is rigged against them and no longer serves their interests. This disillusionment has fueled the rise of populist movements and leaders who promise to shake up the political system. Wolf points out that these leaders often use people's economic struggles to gain support, even if their policies might not address the root causes of inequality. As populism gains ground, it disrupts traditional politics, making it harder for democratic institutions to function effectively. Another factor adding to the crisis is globalization and rapid technological change. Over the past few decades, businesses have moved many jobs to countries where labor is cheaper, leading to job losses in industries like manufacturing. At the same time, advances in technology have automated many routine jobs, making it difficult for workers in developed economies to find new opportunities. This has left many people feeling economically insecure. Wolf argues that policymakers haven't done enough to help people adapt to these changes. Instead, they have focused too much on economic growth and efficiency, while neglecting the social costs. As a result, Many people feel abandoned by their leaders, deepening their distrust in the political and economic systems. As more people lose faith in the political system, the support for democratic norms and institutions weakens. This creates opportunities for authoritarian leaders who promise quick solutions to complex problems. These leaders often undermine democratic values, such as freedom of the press, independent judiciary, and political pluralism, in order to consolidate power. Martin Wolf warns that if this trend continues, countries could end up with illiberal democracies, political systems that maintain the appearance of democracy but lack its core principles. In the worst-case scenario, this could lead to outright authoritarianism, where individual freedoms are severely restricted. Such outcomes would not only threaten democracy, but also harm economic growth in the long run, as political instability and repression tend to reduce innovation and investment. To address this crisis, Wolf suggests several changes to restore the balance between democracy and capitalism. Firstly, Wolf promotes inclusive growth. Governments should focus on policies that ensure more people benefit from economic growth. This includes investing in education, job training, and infrastructure, as well as providing stronger social safety nets like healthcare and unemployment benefits. Wolf also stresses that it is important to reform the tax system. Tax policies should be adjusted so that the wealthy contribute more to society. This could involve higher taxes on capital, wealth, and corporate profits, which could then be used to fund public services and reduce inequality. Thirdly, Wolf wants to regulate financial markets further. Stronger oversight is needed to prevent excessive risk-taking and speculation in financial markets, which can lead to economic crises that harm ordinary people. Another change is reinforcing democratic norms. To strengthen democracy, Wolf advocates for reforms that reduce the influence of money in politics, improve political participation, and protect institutions like independent courts and free media. Fifthly, Wolf wants more adaptation to globalization and technology. Governments should take steps to help workers adapt to the changes brought by globalization and technology, such as offering retraining programs and ensuring that those who lose jobs have support to transition to new careers. So, in The Crisis of Democratic Capitalism, Martin Wolf paints a sobering picture of the current state of democracy and capitalism. He highlights how these two systems, which were once partners in building prosperous societies, are now at odds. Rising inequality, political polarization, and discontent are straining this relationship, creating a crisis that threatens the future of both democracy and capitalism. By acknowledging these challenges and implementing thoughtful reforms, Wolf believes it's possible to restore balance and create a more inclusive, stable society for everyone. It is good to note that there has been some criticism and mixed reviews of the book. While many praise the deep analysis of the tensions between democracy and capitalism, others argue that the book lacks a comprehensive explanation of some of the root causes of these crises and does not propose strong solutions. One key criticism is that while Wolf identifies serious issues such as growing inequality, political polarization, and the rise of authoritarian populism, he does not delve deeply into the underlying power structures that have caused these problems. Critics from more left-leaning perspectives argue that Wolf's approach remains overly focused on preserving the status quo and lacks a more thorough critique of capitalism itself. They suggest that he overlooks the role of austerity policies and the influence of financial elites on the political landscape, which have contributed significantly to the crisis he describes. In other words, Wolf's analysis is seen as limited by his own adherence to a moderate centrist position, which prevents him from exploring more radical or transformative solutions. Another critique points out that Wolf's focus is primarily on the US and UK, with less attention given to other global regions. This narrow scope means the book may miss some broader international perspectives on how democratic capitalism has fared in different political and economic contexts. Other reviewers argue that Woolf's solutions, which include reforming capitalism and strengthening democratic institutions, may not be sufficient in addressing the deep-rooted issues of rising authoritarianism and economic discontent. They also suggest that while he makes strong arguments for why capitalism and democracy need each other, his optimism about reform may be unrealistic, given the entrenched power of elites and ongoing political polarization. Overall, while The Crisis of Democratic Capitalism is acknowledged as a thorough and well-researched book, it has been critiqued for its lack of a more radical approach to addressing the crises it describes. Some see Woolf's solutions as inadequate for the scale of the challenges facing contemporary democracies, particularly when it comes to addressing wealth concentration and the influence of financial power in politics. This brings us to the end of this episode of Essentials. I hope it gave you some new insights in understanding the unrest in the West. Thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please do subscribe to the series. Hope to see you next time.